All right.
All right.
Now
Sweet.
onto what we must talk about.
What must we talk about?
The Game of the Thrones.
Oh.
If she had just finished that workout, she would have had enough points to win.
So what color was your pee? It's black.
So
Black is my soul? Are you pointing at me and my soul?
Interesting. You think Brent has the capacity to beat Matt?
100%.
Really?
He's proven it.
White Walker's ridiculous. Let me get on my dragon.
All right.
All right.
Now
Sweet.
onto what we must talk about.
What must we talk about?
Hey, everybody. Welcome. Hi.
Hey. What up?
It's fucking Scale is Needed time, guys.
Yeah.
Yes! I am so pumped. We have been
Yes.
sitting here waiting, giving ourselves blue balls, and we are now ready.
Ready to explode all over these microphones.
That is correct.
How blue? What shade of blue? Like, describe this to
That
me.
shade of blue.
Yes.
That's a very blue ball.
Yes.
Also, that's a fantastic GIF. I've never seen that before. It's just an angry dog. I hate this hat. That's so fucking good. What a cute dog.
It's like a really great gift,
That's
right?
fantastic.
All right.
Welcome to this episode of Scale is Needed. There is just way too much stuff for us to get into.
Too much.
And because of that, we're going to ignore 90% of the things that have happened,
Yes.
may have happened, probably would have happened.
But first off, a series of retractions about facts we may have gotten wrong on the previous episode of Scale is Needed. First of all, Margaret Thatcher was not a centaur, but a human woman.
I mean, human might be stretching it, but sure.
And it's really, Chase, you should have caught that one, I think. But
Dude, I dropped the ball. I'm
yes,
sorry.
I'm just saying. Second retraction, and these are going to start to get sexual and a little bit offensive and problematic for 2018, so someone cut me off.
Anyway, we don't need to apologize for anything we've done, may have said or done or appeared as.
We're back after a 2-week hiatus. The previous episode was generated entirely by artificial intelligence that had scanned previous episodes and just sort of chopped them up into something. It was like that script that was written by a computer that made no sense, you know? It was like that, but an episode.
See, it did really fucking sound like that, I'll be
Yeah.
honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I was
did.
listening to it, and
Why?
there was no... Because I have to edit
knew it
this
was
fucking
nonsense.
thing to be able to post it eventually. And, yeah, no, nonsense.
They have that
Entirely
technology now
nonsense.
where they're going to where they can scan people's voice and now just generate like realistic sounding audio of them saying whatever you want, and it's pretty damn good now, which means that by about 2 years from now it'll be flawless. And there is even another company that is doing the same thing with video, and I don't know if you've seen this video, but they have a video where they just have Barack Obama sitting in front of a camera just saying whatever they want him to say.
No.
Yes, and they've basically taken, and to keep things like not scandalous, they've just taken like a Barack Obama like audio from like a previous speech of his, you know, completely different thing, and just built a Barack Obama out of another video clip of him giving a public address, and it's not even animated like frame by frame. They've just created a computer program where you just feed the audio in. It maps his face and animates his mouth, and it just looks like he's actually there saying this stuff to you. So the combination of those two technologies, you're going to basically be able to very soon have video, and this is a relevant concern, of anyone saying anything you want.
This is a very relevant concern. I'm
Yes.
sure, Kyle, you strike me as the type of person who's very familiar with deep fakes. Don't pretend like you don't know what that is.
I actually have no idea what you're
Get
talking
the
about.
fuck out of here.
That's fucking
Daniel,
insane. There we go.
Please
so there was
explain
a
a
big
deepfake.
So there was a big controversy on Reddit a little while back, a couple months ago, something like that, where a couple subreddits were banned because people were doing basically exactly what you were saying, but with celebrities' faces on porn stars.
Oh, that I have seen.
Yes. And the
Yeah,
whole deepfake thing, it's
Where
really
does the
interesting.
term
Wait,
come
hold on.
from?
Yeah,
Deepfake.
So it comes from the person who created the technology that was used on Reddit. He used the username deepfake.
Oh,
he
gotcha.
definitely
Definitely.
used the username deepfake.
It was a Labrador Retriever.
And deepfake.
Named
The
Margaret
entire
Thatcher.
thing, the entire thing started with him. It's really interesting to see the life cycle of a technology go into like this over into like a 10-minute period. It started with him basically posting saying, "I did a better job removing Henry Cavill's mustache from Justice League with my homebrew machine than they did using $100 million." And he put up a fucking video of it side by side with like the actual footage from the film and his version of it, and his version was so much fucking better. And yet, within minutes, people were like, "What is this? Would you do with this?" And he's like, "Yeah, I created this like deep learning machine where you just feed it a bunch of photo and video of whatever topic you're using, and then it recreates the face in whatever body."
I created this new technology. Here, internet, use it for benevolent purposes.
Literally within minutes, it was like Hermione Granger. So it's like, oh my god, what?
Well,
My childhood.
So I did not know about like that part of it, but like the thing I think is like astounding is like literally what you just said. It's like, you know, you feed it a whole bunch of images and like video and whatever, and then like set a timer, and it's like it's a crock pot for porn now.
Yeah, it's fucked. It's pretty fucked.
It's funny because I understand the impulse, because I remember, you know, several years ago when, and this is this life cycle of technologies now, where like something pops up and we're like, this is impossible, and then it's like completely banal and we don't give a shit a year later. So remember, like, try and put yourself in the headspace of like a year and a half ago when like Prisma came out, and it's like it can take any photo on your phone and make it look like it's this, you know, expressionist painting, and we were all like blown away by it. But you know, it took about, you know, 3 hours before I was at home, and it's like, you can take any photo with my phone and make it a painting. and because
glass dick.
Exactly, because I don't know, yes, precisely, and because I don't know exactly how iCloud works, I was on my computer at home, probably, I don't know, a few weeks ago, and I was scanning through, like, looking for an old photo, and there was all these paintings of things I don't want to describe.
The Last Temptation of Kyle.
Just all over my computer. It was like,
Wow.
oh, that was a fascinating thing to do for about 5 minutes, and now I have like Vincent Van Gogh paints fill in the expletive there on several different things.
I
So
love
that's good
the
to know.
timer on things like that, of just like new technology, don't know how it works, can't wait for it to show up in like another place, because it always reminds me of your former roommate and the Apple TV with like the iCloud photos.
Oh yeah, so this is a great story. So my former roommate, who will remain named Richard Reininger, we were all roommates, and he was like had a little bit more money than us, and was super into Apple technology and stuff. So we had the first Apple TV, the shitty one that like had before like it became good, like the white one, you know. He had that and had it hooked up to our living room TV, and because he was the only one of us who had an iPhone or or a MacBook or any of these things. Everything was sort of on his Apple ecosystem. You know, when the earliest days of the Apple ecosystem, when you could barely, when it was still a bit unruly. So apparently, so back then the only screensaver. This is the days before you could get like super high resolution 4K flyovers of Shanghai on your screen. The screensaver for the Apple TV was just like the photo library. You can see where this is going. The photo library of just photos would rise out of you. They were just floating by, exactly. So one day we're all sitting around and the thing is on there, and then periodically screen grabs of pornography would just start flying up. And screen grabs of pornography start flying up. Now, the reason that
Screen grabs, by the way.
Yes.
Fucking
Oh no!
screen
Wait
grabs.
for it.
There's a punchline.
No, but listen, screen grabs of pornography start flying up, and the reason Richard Reininger had screen grabs of pornography coming up is he said, and I asked him about this later, and he was like, well, you know, the button for like saving a link is the same, it's like really close to the screen grab button or something. Like there was some justification. I don't know why he's screen grabbing porn, but suddenly it's just like, you know, it's like blonde 19-year-old giving a blowjob, just like from a POV shot, just like scrolls across the screen. Which, if you're not prepared for it, it's funny. So here's what this is when it all pays off, though. Is we're sitting around in the living room. So my parents are visiting.
Oh, fuck.
They're sitting around in the living room. They're sitting around in the living room, and we suddenly realized the first time, because we've been watching something on the Apple TV, like it dips the screensaver, that it was essentially a minefield, and we're all just sort of watching. Richard is passing through the living room, sees his parents in the living room and the screensaver going, and he just like walks into the living room, picks up, just swipes the remote to get the screensaver to go off, and leaves. And thankfully, we avoided anything too terrible, but periodically for several months there was would just be, you know, dicks and boobs all over our screen. So there you go, technology, you guys. Richard Reininger.
but then like also imagine it also like dicks and boobs and whatnot right next to pictures of your niece, pictures of your family, pictures of, you know, your friends hanging out at the going away party,
and then your friends' dicks and boobs.
Dicks and boobs.
Yeah, that right there, that is the core foundation of the entirety of the internet. It was not an information sharing service for like helping universities.
Well,
and
they
shit.
literally there are UX. My girlfriend does UX stuff, and she was saying that like there's plenty of technologies that are in, you know, mainstream UX that are pioneered in porn, like the fact that like when you now hover over a video on YouTube, you get like a little animated preview of the content of the video appeared first on Pornhub.
Well, no, this is something I've noted is that, you know, with there's serious talk of Pornhub kind of sort of being a replacement for YouTube, like for realsies here. I've always noted for a while, Pornhub is way ahead of YouTube just in terms of user interface and technology for video playing there.
Yeah.
The YouTube's, you know, little business for having a little preview play when you hover over it, not nearly as comprehensive as Pornhub's there, and that's really essential.
I have heard the exact same rumor actually that they're talking about the hub.
Yeah, well, it's essentially it's a site that is almost as big in term and robust in its user base as YouTube is. It really is. I mean, it's a billions and billions of dollars as this company. It serves video. It's uploaded. It's functionally identical to YouTube, but for obvious reasons has much looser content restrictions. And as in the middle of the point where YouTube, in a panic to deal with its advertisers, you know, is trying to just left and right demonetize, censor, and pull content left down. There's more and more people who are talking about the most viable alternative being Pornhub. Now, and this is what's relevant, at what point and this is what I've been thinking about, do we merge hardcore pornography with daily vlogging? And I think that there is, and this is a serious prediction here, silly as that sounds, there's going to be emergent, I believe, because YouTube has already begun. Pornhub has already begun its Pornhub community thing, which is basically user-generated content. I've heard, and
or so I'm told.
Or so I'm told.
Way better revenue sharing than YouTube.
With way better revenue sharing, and so what I'm thinking is there's going to be There's going to be at some point a vlog. I'm going to put this idea out in the world. There's going to be a guy who's like becomes a popular lifestyle vlogger who basically has guest female porn stars onto his show, and a female porn star who goes around doing similar things, having guests on her own little show.
Let's call her Cassandra Neistat or something.
Yes, exactly, like that sort of thing. But like the Casey Neistat of Pornhub, who's going to build out a huge user base by basically doing a lifestyle blog in the same vein as a Casey Neistat or whomever else, but a lifestyle blog wherein they also fuck people on camera. This is going to become a thing, and will finally be the point at which this will finally represent the point at which mainstream stardom and like hardcore stardom, the line actually disappears, because you'll have a legit celebrity who's a lifestyle vlogger who is actually fucking people on camera as part of their show. This is going to happen within the next 5 years.
5 years?
2 years.
I cannot wait for like that to happen. It gets to the point where DJI is then doing the same thing they do with, say, like Casey Neistat, and being like, hey, porn lifestyle blogger, check out the Mavic 2. And then it's, look how great I look fucking from this Mavic drone that's floating in front of me.
And it does absolutely nothing to ruin the mood.
Based on the last drone that I had sex with, trying to have sex with a drone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
want that thing running out of batteries
that's
at the wrong spot.
That's the thing. It's the eventual DJI FloElite crossover.
Ooh.
The drone you can fuck.
Or the drone that fucks you. Generally speaking, when you make predictions on the show, Kyle, I am usually not with you.
Yeah.
And I may have just been stunned into silence with how perceptive and perfect that prediction is.
Oh yeah, no, it's going to happen.
100% in agreement.
Well, you can see the potential energy building up that's about to become kinetic energy, because you can see building up, like there's been this flirtation lately with porn stars making it more and more, because as Pornhub has become so ubiquitous, they're making it more into like mainstream-ish forms of media. So you have a lot of like porn stars on podcasts, porn stars on web shows, porn stars. You have celebrity porn stars who are kind of making their way in on this side. And then you have within porn is become like various brands and communities and things starting on Pornhub are becoming more and more popular and are discussed more in the open discourse. So there's only a matter of time before that amount of energy on both sides of that membrane eventually burst through that membrane.
And they share, like, they swap fluids.
Yes, and they swap fluids. But anyway, they share
other.
The same space. And sexual
Pornhub is about
desires.
to impregnate the mainstream.
Exactly.
But no, you can even see it with like the moves that Pornhub has made as well, like or some of the other sites as well. I believe like there's anytime like there's a Facebook privacy thing or a YouTube privacy thing that pops up, it's like, we over at Pornhub would never do anything with your information, that whatever. Like all of a sudden they're tweeting, they're doing stuff about that. Anytime there's a major like sex education talk that's going on, like Oklahoma won't teach their children sex education. Hey, we at Pornhub have produced a whole bunch of sex education videos that you can screen at any time.
They also seem to have a good sense of humor. I don't know if it was an April Fool's joke or maybe, I don't know, maybe it's real. I think it's real. They're finding every city in the world and every town in the world that has like a funny sex name and giving everyone that lives there a free Pornhub like pro account, premium account, whatever the fuck it is.
That's good. I like that. Which is fun. John Ronson, the author of Men Who Stare at Goats and several other books, his last book-ish thing was a collaboration with Audible. It was called The Butterfly Effect, which I'm not sure if that's going to be a catch-all title for like further episodes of this, but it was like a several-part series. It was effectively like a long-form podcast, kind of almost like a This American Life thing, but it was kind of like a book, but it was released exclusively through like for Audible subscribers, and as an Audible subscriber, I listened to it. But the entire subject of his 9-hour thing was Pornhub. And it was about the effects of this basically streaming porn going online. That's what it's difficult to tell people. It's called the butterfly effect, and it's about Pornhub. So it's like I don't get it, but so not a great title.
There are people who are into that.
Yes, there are people who are into that. But it was all about just talking about Pornhub and then all of the effects that Pornhub has had changing, and that's why it stands for the butterfly effect, all the changes it has had on people's lives, with him traveling all around the world interviewing people about how it has changed lives. A lot of it is with porn stars and porn producers, where you realize how radically their lives and their industries were transformed by Pornhub and by streaming porn. Basically, previously they would work periodically and make a lot of money from their videos and that sort of thing. This is now at this point they basically all porn companies kind of work for Pornhub, because any video content they would make to try and release on DVD would so quickly end up on Pornhub that the only way to prevent your stuff from ending up on Pornhub or monetize through Pornhub was to essentially strike a deal with Pornhub or sell to Pornhub, and then they would police your content. So that's why most porn producers now have like their own Pornhub main page and are collaborating with Pornhub, because it's the only way to essentially defend against all of your content being there anyway. So it's basically this Leviathan that's come in and taken over the entirety of the porn industry. Various other interesting aspects of it are like I can't remember if it was Pornhub specifically or one of the other sites or whatever, that like they like the offices, like you really wouldn't know from unless you're on like one particular floor of the office that anything had anything to do with porn, and they were like keeping it hidden from parents or something who were involved because it came from a conservative background, so they were a tech company. It's a very interesting story. But here's where it gets really fucking fascinating. fascinating. They talk about the change to like human beings and people. Like when they talk about how millennials are weirdly not having as much sex anymore as previous generations. Like weirdly, like teen sex numbers are actually going down now instead of up for the first time in however long. They've talked about 2008, the year that streaming porn became a thing. All sorts of weird effects started happening. Like teen sex numbers have gone down. The rise of impotence, or people being addressed, going to doctors to seek like pills for impotence, has gone from like the average age being like in the 40s and above to people as young as 15, and like now the average age is like people in their 20s seeking out doctors for impotence. Yes, and they're talking about the fact that people are it's literally reprogramming our brains.
I mean, you only have so many boners, man.
Exactly.
You can't be using those boners.
Exactly. But I think it's actually reprogramming people's brains in such a way so that they... Anyway, fascinating
Hey,
stuff.
dude, what's your boner count left at?
Well, 0 since he drank all that pre-workout that one day.
But
Well, no, my boner count is quite high. It just has not gone down because I
right.
haven't had a single
Exactly.
erection
But it
since.
is actually an interesting thing though, because it's a thing that keeps popping up. It's also popped up in a lot of like sex advice podcasts as well. Like I know there's a thing like on the Dan Savage one that like comes up like repeatedly. It's a repeated thing. It's like every like couple months the same question will get asked, like, hey, like, so, you know, I'm hanging out with my girlfriend and I just can't, like, it's not working. Like, it's just, you know, it's whatever. You know, it's, you know, and like his literal advice is always stop watching porn for a month, stop masturbating, stop touching, just go away from that. Reprogram your brain to do other things.
The response is like, well, I like my girlfriend, but
That's fucked.
it's like, but I like her just fine, I guess. But no, yeah, good stuff. But anyway, Pornhub, I believe, is a bigger, cultural force than we are currently recognizing it to be. Like, it's had massive changes. It's affected us in a huge way. It'd be interesting to see the size of the Pornhub company and its revenues versus something like YouTube. Obviously, YouTube's bigger, but it's still one of the biggest companies in the country. And so it's be very interesting, especially if other types of content begin migrating their way onto Pornhub. We might begin to see, kind of in that way where we all just woke up and realized that Amazon was the biggest company in the world.
Yeah, exactly, because part of it is going to start serious, and then I'll have a silly tag there. But, you know, when YouTube first came out there, it was the free speech platform, whatever's on it, except porn. You'll have you can do whatever, say whatever, except porn. Porn's the one thing to not be on YouTube. Yep. And what it just goes to show is that once you limit free speech, it is a slippery slope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But no, yes, because it started as that being the one limitation.
Yeah.
And then that's the first of the mainstreaming of YouTube's content there, which has only grown as, of course, mainstream advertisers come on. You can't piss them off there. Yeah. So it gets more and more watered down to the point where YouTube isn't anywhere close to a free speech platform. Yeah. It's just becoming the new, you know, network television, basically.
It becomes something more analogous to the forms of media that it replaced.
Yeah, whereas by default, whatever took the porn side of YouTube there is by default the actual free speech platform, because they can show porn and whatever else based on their
to that note, I think it was around Christmas time or whatever, Kumail Nanjiani tweeted out a thing. It was like literally like, don't ask me how I know this, but it's come to my attention that The Big Sick is available on Pornhub in the interracial section. and
fantastic.
Immediately Pornhub responded. They're like, oh my God, we can't find it, but we'll look for it, we'll take it down. And his response was, no, don't do that.
That's awesome.
Leave that up there. Like, you know, not everyone has Amazon. Not everyone can see my movie. I want them to see my movie.
There was another article recently about how, you know, like if you want to watch like a video recording of the Broadway performance of Hamilton, you can go on Pornhub and watch it right now, you know, and because it can get being pulled off of YouTube, but no one is pulling it off of Pornhub, and so it's like you can go and watch The Big Sick or Hamilton or whatever on Pornhub. So very interesting. Very, very interesting.
Good.
Armen's like, good. Filing that away for later.
Yeah, I'm going to watch Hamilton later.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to see it.
By the way, I just remember when YouTube first hit your first clumsy quizzical like search to see if porn was available on
course.
YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
You're just like,
Well, of course.
porn, enter.
Like
Like in 2006,
Naked.
naked ladies,
naked
enter.
girls.
This also pertains to another roommate that myself and Kyle had, whose show I think actually go unnamed. But what was fun is in the early days of YouTube, we are talking about around 2008. I can't remember how the discussion of looking for porn came up. And if you can probably remember the exact quote.
I do remember the exact quote. It was that we're all sitting around and streaming porn had just sort of hit, and it was like currently blowing like our minds. And me and another porn addicted roommate, not this guy, and his name was Richard Reininger. We were talking about watching. Like, so we were talking. Our third roommate. Our third roommate, I guess fourth roommate. Our fourth roommate, he was talking about like still having like porno mags under his bed, or like VHS tapes or something. I don't remember what. And we were like, man, what are you doing looking at like magazines or this like that? I mean, there's like tons of porn available on the internet. And he's like, yeah, but like who wants to watch porn in like 15-second clips? And we looked at him, it's like, dude, don't you know that like you can watch hours of streaming porn? You know, it's like I believe I said, come on, this is like we're in a post YouTube world. You can watch like hours of streaming porn. And he sits up like, and he goes, "There's no porn on YouTube. I've tried." And he goes, and so I was like, no, man, not that, not YouTube, RedTube, YouPorn, all of the things. This is back in the day when there were many of them.
Yeah.
I was like, RedTube, YouPorn, all of this stuff, and he was like, what? And then he's like, interesting. Went back to smoking a cigarette. Then like a couple weeks later, I think we were like in the kitchen. I was like making dinner. He's like, yeah, you told me about that streaming porn. It's like, yeah, you were right.
Well, no, it's a real life recreation of the Family Guy gag, because there's an episode of Family Guy where Quagmire of all people was informed in similar circumstances about the existence of internet porn, who previously he had not been online on the internet. And of course, the one gag is shows up a couple weeks later, and Daniel can probably pull up the GIF of Quagmire after having discovered porn. Quagmire porn, probably.
Maybe don't Google Quagmire porn.
No, there's not.
No, it actually auto-filled. Like,
okay,
Quagmire discovers the internet.
So here's the scene in the bar where he's being told of the existence of porn, and we're going to see a follow-up gag like 2 weeks later or something when he's checking his mail.
That will happen.
That'll happen fairly soon, but Daniel's going to have to fast forward a little bit to the end of this conversation. There we go. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, there we go. A couple weeks later, he comes out of his house. And hold on.
Disheveled, unshaven.
No, wait, it's not. We haven't had the final gag yet.
This is
hold
great.
on, sorry. There we go.
The joke is
one jacked arm.
The joke is he looks like the guy from Lady in the Water.
Yes,
with the one jacked arm.
But to Kyle's thing here, it's like the period of time where it's like YouPorn, RedTube, etc. Do you guys remember the Wild West of internet porn, where everyone had their favorite site that they went to?
Yes. Now it's
you had your preferences.
Yeah, the porn wars of 2009.
The pores.
Okay.
Wait, if we talk about porn for 2 more minutes, we will have talked about porn for 30 minutes of this podcast.
Yeah! Porn, more minutes. Perfect. All right, so here's the thing about porn.
Anyway,
give me a second.
Moving on.
Actually, no, honestly, to follow up on the Quagmire gag there, we had one muscular arm. I thought, that's silly and unrealistic. And then I encountered something that made me believe, there's something to that sort of joke of you're going to get, really jacked from jacking off, is when I injured my right shoulder one time, such that my arm couldn't move hardly at all for like a while.
Yes.
And then I realized,
then someone introduced him to the stranger.
Yeah, there is some delayed onset muscle soreness when you use muscle in a arm that is not normally used to be doing that kind of work.
So here's why Instagram is the preferable social media platform on which to follow porn stars.
Why?
Because Because
Why? We could have stopped this conversation so many different places.
We could
Why
have.
are we continuing
Good.
this?
Okay, here's why. Because, people say if you're going to follow porn stars, follow them on Twitter because you can see boobs and stuff, which is fine, I guess. But here's the thing. Porn...
Show Bob's and Vagine.
Show Bob.
Wait, I don't get it. Sorry.
It's so funny. Anyway, so... But the thing is, that's what's nice about Instagram, is you can't see boobs and you can't see any sort of thing. So it's the preferred platform to follow porn stars because there's an actual element of titillation and anticipation to seeing them leading their lives and taking beach photos and all sorts of things. But the one element that's normally present is absent. So when you eventually make it to the privacy of your own stall at the office bathroom, then
You're like, man, I've been watching you enjoy your avocado toast.
Exactly.
Now
Precisely.
I'm gonna watch you get
Exactly. And it makes it better. It makes it better, Armen. That's
You
what
feel
I'm
like
saying.
you know them a little better, you know?
You guys have such like best practices developed. It's reprogramming people's brain. That's great. That is really good.
Like literally the only other thing we need on this image here would be the crazy guy hair from the History Channel thing, the Ancient Aliens guy.
Thank you, Dakota, for photoshopping.
fantastic.
It's reprogramming. We just need a Robbie the Robot in there, I think, is the thing to do, with a Pornhub logo across his chest.
So we hit the 30-minute mark. I'm moving on.
30 minutes!
Congratulations, guys. About half this show has been about Pornhub and porn. Can we just have a quick round of applause for Chase, by the way?
Chase.
Just a quick round of applause for Chase.
I almost started clapping.
Chase is going to regionals, guys.
Yes,
That's right.
So really, in a way, all of Scale is Needed is going to
Yeah,
regionals.
very
yeah,
true.
we
I thought-
as a team have qualified for regionals.
Yeah.
I thought the applause was for sitting through the whole porn discussion.
That too.
I did that too. That was really tough.
That too.
I thought this was for.
But also fitness.
Yeah, but also fitness. Chase has secured a spot on a multi-time games team going to regionals this year
CrossFit J Crew.
with CrossFit Yakaru.
Yakaru.
No, CrossFit J Crew, yeah.
So
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
They get cool jackets.
Congratulations, Chase. You have done something that none of us could do.
It's very true.
Literally.
Except for Katie,
Yes.
Katie
could
already
definitely
did
make the
this.
team.
who already did this after just months.
Actually,
of
maybe
CrossFitting.
don't tell the people at Yakaru that Katie's available.
She probably snatches more than you. So,
Oh, without a doubt.
so congratulations, Chase.
Thanks, dude. Thanks, guys.
So last year you would have just had to go to Dallas or San Antonio. Where was it last
It was
year?
in San Antonio.
It was in San
We
Antonio.
actually went last
But
year.
this year, Utah.
Yep, we're
That
going
is
to
a-
Salt Lake City.
That is a long way away from 90
The pod's
minutes.
going on the road.
Nice.
And by the pod, I mean probably
Just those two
just
guys.
the two of us.
Yes.
Just Chase and myself.
They
We're
won't
going on
send the
road.
rest of us because it's too expensive.
Way
Buy
too
bicycle.
expensive. This is already way too expensive, considering what your roles are in,
Yes.
in the actual company is already way too expensive.
This
of
is a
an
very
hour and a half.
valuable podcast.
Yes.
My hourly wage, we add that to the budget of the podcast. We're way, way, way over any kind of reason.
I remember when we first started this, we were like, maybe Ray should be on this. Ray being
The creative director.
the creative director, the chief creative officer, or whatever his title is. I'm not sure, but I think his exact words were something like, "No fucking way, I'm wasting my time on this podcast," and literally would have been too expensive.
Yes.
For a scheduling slot. But either way, the point is,
So instead, we had to offset those costs by getting the unpaid intern Daniel.
That's right.
To fill in the fourth seat.
Daniel brings
I make
down
no
the
wage.
average time, or the average amount of money that we spend on this podcast.
But he gets free lunch sometimes.
That's
I
true.
get free lunch sometimes. I live in the ceiling.
He
though.
gets to refill his water bottle in the in the little sparklets thing when there is water there.
Yes.
That is
I
a
just
nice
found
perk.
this somewhere. I didn't even buy this.
Chase, are you feeling ready for regionals, dude?
I'm feeling wrecked at the moment.
Why
I'm getting
wrecked?
ready for regionals.
Why are you
turns
wrecked?
out it's really, really, really tough to train for regionals for the first time.
Are they putting you through harder shit at
Yeah,
Yakaru?
yeah, because I thought training was already super tough, and
He was like, I thought I was already pretty fit, but apparently not.
apparently I was wrong. It's really funny because we used to talk talk smack about Jacob Heppner's workouts. And like, who would do that type of stuff? Lo and behold, it was like the expectation was do like 2 of them yesterday.
So how often are you training? Are you in? So you're in there every day, but what do you do? Like how many hours a day are you doing?
There's at least 2 sessions a day.
Oof.
Oof is right.
Oof.
Well, that makes sense. There are 2 workouts per day at regionals.
That's true. Getting the body used to that volume. Remember, the third event, or the final event, is the weekend itself.
That's true.
That's right.
It's very
Look
true.
at you.
The volume.
It's like you know something about CrossFit.
I bet.
And
Yeah.
the real prize
That's why
isn't
Rich Froning's Mr. Sunday.
the real prize isn't the podium or making it to the games. It's the friendship that we built along the way.
Because
good.
prior to this, I didn't like any of these people,
Yeah.
and I still don't. But by the end of it, I will tolerate them.
So
Nice.
So, give us a rundown. How big is your margin of victory going to be at regionals?
Huge.
Huge.
On what workout?
I don't
We
know.
don't know any
All
of
of
the
them.
workouts.
You're going to win, right? You guys are going to win regionals?
That's the goal.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Who are the other teams that we need to sabotage in order to make sure
we need to
that Hikaru
sabotage
Mainly
gets to-
Arasti.
Rost.
Yeah, mainly Arasti, which is
Okay.
Travis Williams,
Travis
Jordan
Williams,
Cook,
Sheila
Garibay, and Sheila Barton.
If
Interesting.
we can find a way to like taint their water supply.
Yes.
Well, they live in Houston, so
Yes.
that's
Well-
not going to be hard to do.
Just
That's
take
probably
away,
happening
take away
already.
their supply of rock tape.
That's right. That's right. Just you no longer get Arasti visits for free.
So how many teams make it through to the games? 5?
5.
5. Okay, so they're going to get number 1.
We call. Here's the plan. We call up Travis Williams. We claim that we are a new supplement company. This new supplement company that we want to sponsor, but he has to use our products. Then we mail him, Blahnik style supplements for beta alanine or whatever, but it's full of SARMs.
I was going to say that. I was going to say it's Endurable.
No,
That's what it
but
is.
you know what would be awesome though of doing that
Yeah.
is we'd actually they would get caught and they'd be disqualified, but not before we see an epic performance at regionals there.
It's like everybody wins because Travis Williams on like Carterine would be just unreal. He might even just blow himself out completely. But then he would get disqualified after he popped for drugs, and then Hikaru just gets to waltz into the game spot. So let's do it, man.
Yeah,
Everybody
because
wins.
it's just us. It's just us 2
Just
going
those
to
2.
regionals.
Yeah.
And
Just
it's either
Also,
first or no one.
you could probably offer him Endurable, and chances are Travis wouldn't know that that's what
This is true.
Ricky Garrard tested positive
Look,
for.
here are some supplements.
Chase, have you guys started working with the worm yet?
Not yet. That's this weekend.
You have one, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
I
we
saw
have
it
2.
there.
We have
You have
2
2.
for some reason.
Yeah,
That's incredible.
double worms.
So
Wow.
basically, the way my week looks is
Look
like
at his hands.
Oh, his hands are
He
so
just held
fucked
up his
right now.
hands, and they're
Oh, yeah.
like, oh,
Oh yeah, all torn up and
oh,
bloody.
those are
He
brutal.
has like
looking.
9 tears on
Those
his
are
hands.
big tears.
yeah. That was actually the first workout yesterday. Was cut your hands to shit for time.
for time.
And I won. That
won.
one. No, the way my week looks is like Monday is now a rest day. Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday are all individual work days. And then Thursday's a rest day. And then Saturday, Sunday are all team days. So we spend like 4 hours working as a team on Saturday and Sunday.
Wow.
Nice. What are you doing? Any kind of what are you doing? Like team coordinating things? You're like holding each other up and carrying each other around, or anything fun like that yet?
Yeah, I think that's all we're gonna do is just a whole bunch of cheerleading workouts
Nice.
where we basically have a base and then we got a couple flyers, that type of thing.
That could be good content. We have cheerleaders here at the company. We could take them to CrossFit J Crew, and they could teach the CrossFit J Crew team how to cheerlead each other.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the key to victory.
Competitive advantage. I'm just saying. Let's utilize the resources of this company irresponsibly to try and give an unfair advantage to CrossFit Hikaru.
I like it.
So,
Dakota, by the way, I'm just going to put this out there. I need a CrossFit J Crew logo ASAP.
ASAP.
Nice.
So, congratulations, Chase, again. We will
Yes.
be very closely following your progress into being a professional athlete.
Goddamn right.
And, let's fuck it. 255-star reviews. And Chase goes to the CrossFit Games.
Yeah.
How's that? Is that good? Also,
I don't see how those things relate.
can
But
we please just take a look at what's on the screen right now? Dakota crushing the fucking game. with a Photoshop picture. That might be real of Margaret Thatcher's head on a centaur's
A
body.
male centaur's body.
With the quote, "I am not a centaur."
with a painted centaur backdrop behind.
Yes.
behind
Incredible.
her. That is gold. Daniel, can you please send that to me so I can make it my cover photo on Facebook?
Yes, I can.
So, we also learned, continuing with our fitness trend, we also learned.
I'm not a centaur.
God dang it.
We learned that.
If you don't know the conversation preceding it, explain that. I can't wait to post that to Instagram. Dakota, I will tag you in it, and just post that, and just that's
18 minutes ago. I mean, he got that shit ready.
Oh, yeah.
Lickety
That's
splitskis.
incredible.
So we've been sitting on this.
That's
for a while.
incredible. Okay, so we also learned the nature of Dan Bailey's knee injury.
Yes,
And it turns out that Kyle gave him exploding knee-itis.
yes, when I had sex with him without using a condom, exploding knee-itis
That's
was
not even the worst
transmitted.
thing that could have happened.
Yes, I know.
You could have gotten pregnant.
I could have gotten all pregnant, but I got his knee pregnant with quadricep tendon rupture. Because, and this is the funny thing, is I'm scrolling through Instagram and I see a picture, and I knew before I read the caption, I knew exactly what it was, because the picture of Dan Bailey, like it's a picture taken from like leaning back in a chair of his knees, with the big scar, like 6-7 inch scar going down one knee with the little band-aids over each one of the stitches, and I was like, oh, he ruptured his quad. Like, it was exactly what my knee looked like.
Was that my knee?
Exactly. I for a second I was like, except it was the left knee instead of the right. And then I just scrolled down and it was like Dan Bailey, quadricep tendon rupture, got repaired surgically, still a bit swollen. I'm like, that's it. And he's like, it's gonna be a long road left to go.
Very fucking long road.
I was like, I thought it was like, it's a really, really long road.
This is gonna be bad. Like, it's gonna take
there's
him
just no
like
recovering.
15 months before
Yeah.
before his leg strength is back to
And
what
that's
it
the thing.
was.
I mean, and that's the sad part. Is that, like, realistically, in a little over a year, I was feeling really good. And if I were more responsible with like mobility work and recovery stuff and everything, I was 2 years out, every bit as strong as I was prior to the injury. But could someone get back up to games level shape after an injury that massive? I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, it would almost be better to have like really severely broken bones or something like that, because bones when they heal are bones, but and they're just, like, I know that Josh Bridges had like a massive leg injury where he broke something and then came back or
He
whatever,
destroyed his entire knee.
yeah, and he came back from that, but it's just like, the problem is like that muscle, first of all, after it becomes detached, your body, it's built in mechanically into your body, so that once it becomes unhooked on one end, it becomes paralyzed. So my quadricep was paralyzed for months. Like, even after it was reattached, you can't contract it until the connection forms again. It won't connect unless it's plugged in at both ends. So for months after it was reattached, like, it just atrophied. And when it can't contract at all, it just atrophied and atrophied and atrophied and atrophied. And that, to the point where, like, if I were sitting with my leg bent, I couldn't just, like, sitting on the couch, I couldn't raise my leg. It was just nothing. And then one day, months later, I was just looking at my leg and just whoop, and just was able to raise it. Just came back online
crazy.
one day, and by that point it had just lost so much mass. It's still, to this day, even as I'm squatting higher weight, big reps, I feel strong as ever, visibly this leg is thinner than the other leg. You can see that this quadricep is not as big. It still is not fully recovered, despite squatting symmetrically for almost 3 years now.
So you're going to get points off for symmetry there on the next show.
Yeah, that's right. I need to do some hardcore bodybuilding of that one leg.
Did you ever do any sort of asymmetrical training, like just one-sided training?
No, everything was simple. Well, when I first injured it, I bought like a little 5 or 10 pound kettlebell. I put it over my foot once it came back online, so I could just do little leg raises to get like minimal strength back in it. But once that was over, it's always been symmetrical training, because I figured I'll just train symmetrically and everything will even out. And realistically, it has. I feel just as strong, but you can see that the size of the right quadricep, like if I especially like right after a workout, my muscles are like really pumped up, and I like stand in the mirror. If I like straighten my legs and flex both legs, you can see the quadricep on the left leg just juts out much more than the quadricep on the right leg. So it is what it is. But I don't feel it at all when squatting. It just is smaller.
Hopefully, Dan Bailey's recovery does not take the same turn as yours did, where he re-ruptured
it 6 weeks later.
Just for shits and gigs.
For shits and gigs. Well, here's my advice to Dan. 6 weeks out, when the doctor says you can maybe start taking your knee brace off, don't immediately throw your knee brace away and go marching on your feet and your one half paralyzed leg to 7-Eleven to go buy a tuna salad sandwich and some Cheetos. Because what's going to happen is you're going to fall on your ass outside of that 7-Eleven, and you're going to call your dad, who's in town for your sister's wedding, to come and scrape you off the concrete in front of that 7-Eleven. And the worst part is, it's going to take him like 10 minutes to get there, and people are coming in and out of that 7-Eleven, and you're going to have to explain to every one of those people who's going into 7-Eleven why
they drop quarters next to you.
As why a full-grown man is just laying in a pile of tuna sandwich and Cheetos, saying, "No, it's fine. It's fine, you guys. I'm just going to stay here for a little while." And then you're going to have to explain it to everyone at your sister's wedding that, yes, you're not still on crutches, you were off them, and now you're on them again at the wedding.
And you get diarrhea from 7-Eleven tuna sandwiches. So you just get
That is a lot. That's a scandalous lie. The tuna salad sandwich at 7-Eleven is a fucking miracle. And that's that.
Wow. Are all knee injuries sexually transmitted? I'm just asking for a friend.
That is a little known fact.
It's true.
But vaccinations cause autism, and all knee injuries are sexually transmitted.
That's true.
Yes.
That's why they never want to tell you that, but that's exactly what the case is.
Exactly what it is. Yeah, it did bum me out seeing that, because it's like having been through that injury myself, it's just it's really hard to come back from. And so it's like, I'm sure Dan Bailey is going to be fit as fuck in no time at all. Like he will be way fitter again and more capable in a year than any of us have ever been in our whole life. But something that like taking that big of a hunk out of someone, will he ever be able to make it back into games qualification shape? That's just such a high bar. That would be hard to do.
Yeah.
Big Dan Bailey fan here, though.
Yeah, I mean, let's have a moment of silence for Dan Bailey's career as an individual CrossFit Games
that's
athlete,
sad.
though.
Don't just put it out there on Front Street like that. Come on. We're talking all around the point.
I think I already said it. I think I said it last year after regionals. I was like, that's it. Pull the curtain down.
But people have come back from, like, seeming downward trends.
Yeah, Josh Bridges' leg, his knee... His knee was exploded so fucking badly. His leg was basically bent the wrong way.
Yeah.
And he has still been consistently making to the games and still doing really well.
But Bridges doesn't give a shit. That's the difference.
That's a good point.
Well, but and this was a long time ago, but I remember for several years in a row, it seemed like Jason Kalipa was on a downward trend. Like after he won, he would just finish kind of worse and worse at the games, and everyone was and again, this was earlier when people didn't quite know as much about how to CrossFit properly. And then all of a sudden he just came figured it out and came roaring back and got second at the games. So it's it's interesting to see someone like Dan Bailey who's had kind of suboptimal performances, but he could he figure something out? Could something click? Is he training wrong and come back? I don't know. Some way, I don't know. But this certainly doesn't help.
Yeah, this definitely is not going to help him qualify, and it will be. I mean, I don't think we're even going to see him really be able to participate in next year's Open. With any sort of real. If there's any sort of heavy event, I just don't think he's going to be able to put it in there.
And I don't know how old he is now, but however, he'll be
35.
He'll be he'll be 37 before he could realistically compete again. Is he really 35? That's weird. I assumed he was my age or younger.
Yeah. Well, he was around our age when he first started.
Yes, but now he's 55 years old.
Yeah, that's true. He's CrossFitted. He's just used up too many of his heartbeats. Yes, you only have so many heartbeats.
You only have
so many
boners.
Like boners.
You only have so many heartbeats. You don't want to use all of those heartbeats.
Yes.
That sounds awfully familiar to something Donald Trump said. So
I don't know.
Just be careful.
Oh, God.
Donald Trump's justification for not exercising. You only have so much energy, so you don't want to waste any of it exercising, and that's why he is in such great shape.
On camera, we now have Armen agreeing. Never mind. Whatever. Jacob Hepner. He'll be cool to watch come back. Because apparently he's just going to keep training as if the games are next week.
I don't know. Last year we saw Hepner get bursitis in his knee, and not sign up for the open, and it sucked because knowing sort of what knee bursitis looks and feels like, you know that he's gonna be fucked up during the open, but by the time regionals rolls around, he's back to 100%. And that's exactly what happened. He was fucked up during the open.
Yep.
By the time regionals rolled around, he did all the fucking regional workouts in one session, and his scores would have put him in the podium on every regional. So his fitness never really went away. He just had to take a short break from squatting and lunges and shit. And this time, you know, it's same deal. I suspect he's going to do the same thing. He's going to do all the regional workouts. He's going to fucking go out there and do them all in one session and, you know, score, you know, top 100 in the world or whatever the fuck. But yeah, I mean, he's spending his off season doing some pretty wild shit though. He and Hunter McIntyre went and did this new like Tough Mudder race. They called Tough Mudder X, TMX. I have no idea, but it's like a race made for fucking CrossFitters. It's a mile long. It's 10 obstacles, 10 workouts, 10 events, and you just do it as quickly as possible. Jacob Edman went out there to the very first one. I think it was in San Jose or something. He got third.
Nice. And Hunter McIntyre won.
Hunter McIntyre won.
Yes.
But they're going out to Miami, I want to say this weekend or next weekend for the next one. And Jake is doing that one as well. So I mean, he can make some money, like going out there, just placing on the podium, getting a couple grand each time.
They pay money for that?
Fuck yeah, they pay money for that.
It's like an actual competitive
It's
thing.
like a
now
real
people
thing.
do.
Oh,
and they're trying to make it more of a real thing for athletes like Jake to come in, right? They're trying to make it like, hey, listen, CrossFitters, like, you're good, but why go to regionals and like kill yourself
when you can
to
just
get
do
sixth
these races all year long?
When you can do these races for the season and win like, you know, 30 grand or 40 grand.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious to try one of those things. How about Scale is Needed does a adventure race, whatever it's called.
If you're serious about this, hold on now. Hunter has been in my ear about us coming out and doing it. He's like, dude, just let me know. I know the guys. We're trying to get eyes on it. Let's go out there. Like,
we could bring our whole audience of 7 people.
That's right. We can
those
bring
eyes.
our entire audience. Your mom, my mom,
Daniel's mom.
Everybody. Chase.
By the way, it was really funny watching your mom was watching the Facebook feed for a while today. She held on through most of the porn.
It's good to know.
Before later returning, I think our Facebook feed's down right now. But,
Yes.
My
before
Our
returning later-
Facebook is down right now?
Yeah.
What
is
the
it?
fuck is going on?
We're talking to each other?
It's good on YouTube. You guys are live.
Yeah,
good
we're
on
live on
YouTube?
YouTube.
All right,
We
all
got
right.
a whole 8 viewers.
Wow.
I'm talking about
We're
you.
doing
I'm
really
not
well.
part
I
of it.
thought last time I checked we had like 30 people.
But we've
I don't know what the
definitely been
fuck's going on.
demonetized by this point
Of
on
course.
YouTube.
Of course. Jordan Peterson. There you go.
There you go.
Now definitely
definitely.
demonetized.
Now it's gone.
Yeah. So, and then Chase texted me this. I need to address it. Neil's not watching because we're not on Facebook, but he texted me this screenshot.
Dude, that was pretty funny.
Was it really fucking funny? Neil Cook says million meter row, which he fucking spelled meter wrong. It's fucking America. It's ER, not RE. God damn it, Neil. Million meter row. That slipped quietly into the night like a silent fart in bed. Hashtag chasing fitness like a maniac. And what he's referring to is my 2018 million meter row goal, which, motherfucker, it's April. I have plenty of time to hit
How many meters are you into your million meter row?
about 210,000.
All right, that's actually not
You're
bad.
going to say 210.
I'm on fucking track.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, I am on fucking
In
track.
fairness,
to hit-
I have to say to the audience, I ran into Armen at the gym the other day, and what was he doing? He was just rowing a bunch.
Yeah,
A whole bunch.
and I've been over to Armen's house, and he's just randomly rowing. So that's a
There you
thing.
go.
All hours.
Newsflash, motherfucker! I work out.
Yes.
It's hard to believe. I know this is not the fucking the body of an elite athlete, perhaps.
Yes.
But for fuck sure, it's someone who works out.
Goddamn right.
I will fucking hit that million meter row mark, and I will hit it on like 11:49 p.m. December 31st.
Hey, New Year's party idea.
New Year's party idea. Armen hits millimeters.
By the way, speaking of working out, speaking of the gym, I've realized how full circle I've kind of like. I've come on the whole CrossFit thing, and I still consider myself a CrossFitter and stuff. And yet, you know, because I years ago drank the Kool-Aid. I mean, I was in it. I was about it. I proselytized for CrossFit, and yet I've noticed now, and I don't know how it's been this subtle over time, and I'm still doing functional fitness, and I'm still doing my butterfly pull-ups, and I'm still doing all this stuff. So I haven't converted fully like Cliff has to that sick physique model lifestyle. That Cliff
I mean,
look at him.
Yeah.
clearly it's working.
Gorgeous. Uh-huh.
But
Dancing pecs.
But I realized twice in the last 2 days in the gym, new people have come into the gym who are clearly like CrossFitters or about that CrossFit life,
yeah.
and it's annoyed me both times. I've been like, look at this fucking asshole. So I was in there 2 days ago, and there's just some really small guy, but he like, and I see he has like Invictus pulled up on his phone, and he's like doing kettlebell swings and like bar muscle ups.
I saw that guy.
And I was just like, he was a really tiny blonde guy, and I was just like, ugh, and I just like was like, why? Just go somewhere else. Like, don't bring this in front of me. And then maybe it was even in the same session. Actually, it may have been at two ends of the same session because it was might have been on both yesterday. At the end, this like really fit couple comes in who are clearly all about the CrossFit life, and the girl's like doing snatches in the middle of the floor, and I'm like, can you just move it to a platform? Like both platforms were open. I'm like, just get away from me when they're both wearing Metcons and doing that thing. And I was just like, I'm over it. Please get out of my field of vision.
You turned the corner from CrossFitter to old man.
To old man.
Get off my lawn.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I was just over it.
Well, you know, the thing about seeing CrossFitters
In the wild.
because
Yeah.
really it is, because
Yeah.
I train at two different gyms, not counting the house where maybe I just row.
Yeah.
But
if you encountered a random CrossFitter at your house, that would be something.
that would be very scary.
What are you
Get
doing
out
here?
of my house.
So serious, like kettlebell swings into my low ceilings.
Oh no! Once you see one, you know there's 1,000.
Stand up! Get out right now! This is not a paleo home.
Katie, call the exterminator.
So I train at two different gyms. Both of them are rock climbing gyms. One of them is a rock climbing gym that has an actual affiliate inside of it.
Yep.
Exedium at Crux.
Yep.
And there, I don't take the classes. I just train at the same time as the classes. We go and we hang out in our little corner and we do our lifting there. At ABP, which is right next door, the bouldering project, there is no CrossFit gym there. They just have every equipment that I want.
They have the full Rogue setup.
They have the full Rogue setup, and I get to do whatever I want. They have ski ergs, they have assault bikes, everything I want to use there.
I do like that their thing was they went to the Rogue website and just went one of everything.
Yeah, they probably
literally
just bought
did
the big
Yes,
package.
the big package,
There's a big package they bought.
Yeah, there's a big package right over here too.
Heyo.
Heyo.
He's talking about his dick, everybody.
Yeah.
So there are these two separate spaces. In both of them, I encounter CrossFitters. And in both of them, I'm like, why are you doing what you were doing?
It's like it used to be. Like I used to look at guys who were doing curls or lateral raises or people on elliptical trainers and being like, look at these fucking idiots. And now every time I see a CrossFitter who's like doing snatches and burpees, I'm like, look at this fucking idiot.
No, I'm not quite that far. I still believe and love the CrossFit methodology.
Same. But why do I feel this way? I don't understand. I am like a self-hating homosexual who's just like, who's like very closeted. Exactly. And so
Intern fire.
But it's like the guy who's like it's like I'm like a Tim Gunn gay guy, you know, who's like I wear a suit and I have a very conservative lifestyle, and like I see the guy in little short shorts and a half shirt walking down the street going hello, and I'm like, God, fuck you. And like that's me with CrossFitter. I'm the Tim Gunn of CrossFitter.
Analogy is so fucked. So fucked.
I have no idea.
I don't
You
know.
know,
if
I'm
that's-
just saying, like, this is me in my feelings about CrossFit. Like, it's now I'm just go and I work at a bank and I wear suits and I'm just like, let me just fitness.
You're a closet CrossFitter.
Let me fitness. No, I'm not closet. But I've made peace with it. I'm not like that. I'm not like the young gay who has to like go and push like it out there to like really solidify his identity.
Trying to steer you away from this analogy.
Listen.
You keep digging this analogy deeper
Exactly.
and deeper.
Listen, I'm just saying. I watch a lot of Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. I know what I'm talking about.
Now on Netflix.
It's now on Netflix. Binged it all. It was very good. Kara cried every single episode.
Katie told me she watched the pilot and she was crying during the pilot. And I was like,
I've
I
watched
can't
the first two
fucking do
episodes
this.
there. It's pretty fantastic.
And Cliff also cried.
I mean, I do like Tim Gunn, so
Yes.
I'll give it a shot.
He's not on. He's not on.
He's not on Queer Eye?
No. That is he is
That's a
from
different
Project
show.
Runway.
Okay. Oh yeah, he is on Project One. I used to watch that a lot.
Yes.
The guy from Chopped is on Queer Eye. Is it the same cast?
No, different cast. He was on the old Queer Eye, which I never watched, but I did watch the Netflix one.
I watched a lot of Chopped. I like that guy.
I didn't even know it was a new thing. I thought it was the old one now on Netflix.
No, it's they've been doing a new Queer Eye with a new Fab Five, and one of the Fab Five is the guy from Game of Thrones. If you ever watched Game of Thrones, it was a Funny or Die show. It was a recap show for Game of Thrones with a guy Jonathan something. I forget what his name is, but doing a recap of Game. It was called Gay. He's very gay, is what I'm saying. It's called Gay of Thrones, and
I get it.
Hilarious.
I see what you do. So back to encountering CrossFitters in the wild. The reason why I question what they're doing is because we're no longer in this infancy stage of CrossFit's popularity. When we started CrossFitting, it was, what is this thing? Fuck. Right? Now you have so many resources available to you as a fitnesser to know what you should be doing and why you should be doing it, that it blows my mind that there are still people who are just like, I'm gonna go fucking hit a Metcon today, and just why am I not getting any better at CrossFit? I put so much value into being good at CrossFit, and yet I continue fucking not doing anything in order to be better. It's like, well, listen, like those things, of course, if you're just fucking running yourself into the ground and not trying to do anything to actually get better, you're never gonna get better. But like, that's what drives me crazy. Is now I feel like an outsider on both ends because I look at the people doing curls on the elliptical while drinking a milkshake. Kind of crazy, weird, but I've seen it. It's like, I was like, why are you wasting your time on an elliptical? That's such a strange fucking thing to do, unless you have like a massive knee injury you're trying to save. I don't know. But at the same time, I look on the other side of the gym and it's a bunch of people like squatting, cool, but then they turn around and start doing like these weird ass like fucked up Metcons that aren't doing anything to make them better. And it's like, why are you doing this to you? Why are you doing this to me? That's the important question. You are doing this to me.
Because I have to watch it and I know it's wrong.
It is happening in the same space where I am consuming oxygen and you are consuming oxygen at a fast rate that is taking air away from me.
Here is my perspective on this is perhaps a little more insane just because I'm always program hopping. But this is analogous to the George Carlin joke about how when you're driving down the highway, anyone who is driving slower than you happen to be driving is an idiot. And anyone who's driving faster than you happen to be driving is a maniac. And that's pretty much how I view it. Because I program hop so frequently, I find, and I need to stop myself from doing this, whenever I see someone doing something different than the program I happen to be following for those 2 weeks, I think, what a fucking jerk off. He's wasting his time. But it changes every 2 weeks such that you eventually cycle back to seeing someone like a month later doing something that you yourself were doing, that previous month, thinking, what a fucking asshole.
Yes.
It really is. I think the, if I can throw a large word out there, the Sisyphean nature of the exercise and the fact that none of it really ever like overlaps, right? Like they being these CrossFitters want to be good at CrossFit. And then they being these same CrossFitters are not doing really anything to get good at CrossFit.
Yes. What are some sins you see in the gym? Some CrossFit sins.
Well, I think the number one thing is people like not focusing on actually learning how to do these movements correctly. If you don't,
I wouldn't know anything about that.
Fucking, at this point, you have no excuse. There's so many resources out there to like even just to watch and learn online how to do the weightlifting movements, the Olympic weightlifting, or to squat properly. If you can't get the basics of just an air squat down,
so you're talking about people who are like going for like mad intensity, but with like crazy bad technique,
right? That's like number one. Number two is people who are like trying to build some sort of, John Welborn used to call it the super secret squirrel program, where a squirrel will collect nuts from all over the place and put it all together. The idea is you go like, okay, I'm gonna do like a couple pieces from Invictus, but I'm also going to mix in a little bit of the comp train. I'm going to do some of the Misfit stuff and also pull in some of the aerobic capacity stuff from Chris Hinshaw, and then maybe a little bit of the Mayhem and like maybe something off of Matt Fraser's Instagram. And it's like, you're not building a super program that's going to make you super fit. You're building an injury machine, right? An injury machine that you are going to feed your body into. And guess what's going to come out the other end? We've all fucking done this. We've all been to the point where we're like, you know what? I know what the secret sauce is. It's combining these 4 completely different fucking things
into
With
one
your
thing.
powers combined,
That's right.
Kyle's knee blows out.
That's exactly right. So it's like, you know, there's like the guys who don't have even the basic foundational movements. There's the people who are like, you know, program hopping or program consolidating, which is probably worse than program hopping. And then worse is people that don't understand that, like, even if you just dove down into the CrossFit Journal to like the very first handful of things that Greg Glassman wrote down, you would understand how to structure your year or just exercise normally. Like, even if you just followed fitness in 100 world-class fitness in 100 words, you'd still be able to get better.
Yes. Or, and the other thing is, or you can just decide what works for you and just focus on those things that you like to do and that you want, those capacities in those domains that you want to get better at, and let the other ones go.
But you can't have it both ways.
Yeah, no, you
That's
cannot.
the problem. The problem is you either are trying to get good at CrossFit and therefore should put some effort into doing it efficiently in the right way, or understand that maybe you're not going to be a 5-tool athlete in CrossFit, but you can be good at a couple things and you just want to keep doing those couple things. That's totally fucking fine.
Yes.
It's like that weird cross section when people really want to be good at CrossFit or want to get better at CrossFit and aren't really doing anything to meet it, is where it starts getting infuriating. And to distill it down to just a useful nugget of information for the 99.9% of us that CrossFit and did not make it to regionals. Thank you, Chase.
Like Chase.
Technically speaking, really, there are 6 of us in this room. So like the 70-ish, 70 to 80% of us in this room that don't go to regionals.
This is an accurate sample.
This is an accurate
size, I
sample
think.
size. If you are interested in being good at CrossFit, because I know Kyle isn't, so I don't know why I'm talking to him about this, but if you are interested in being good at CrossFit, the number one thing that you should be doing right now in your off season is getting stronger and building an engine. It's those 2 things. Notice I said number 1 thing, and I said 2 things at the same time. That's not accidental. You should be getting stronger and building an engine.
Which really fundamentally is interesting, because you say that as a piece of advice, and yet those are the only 2 things that I even recognize as being what CrossFit is. It's just like, like it's you go, you do your big lifts to get stronger, and then you do your things that punch you in the stomach to build up your engine. And those are the only 2 things that I recognize anymore as being CrossFit.
Correct.
So you have to get very far afield to not be focusing on those 2 things, because everything I do in the gym falls into one of those 2 buckets, and I try, if I can, every session to hit both buckets. Sometimes I only have it in me to do 1 bucket and then go home, but I try to get both buckets in there. So something to make me a little bit stronger and something to at least maintain whatever engine I have left.
At the end of the day, it's this time of year for most people should probably be mostly consistent of, you know, powerlifting and weightlifting, some strict gymnastic work, and lots of intervals. You should be running, you should be rowing, you should be on the assault bike, you should be doing ski erg, you should do fucking combinations of all those things. You should do anywhere from 20 to 40 second intervals with a lot of rest to like 6 to 10 minute intervals with very little rest. You should be varying it up. It shouldn't be fucking killing you every single time, but you should be killing yourself every now and then. Most of them should be a sustainable pace for whatever that period of time is. If it's like a 2-minute interval, maybe it should be, you know, like your mile pace or your 2K row pace or whatever. If it's a 10-minute interval, maybe it should be your 5K pace or like your 5K row pace, whatever. You know, like the idea is you should be spending time doing intervals and getting stronger, because that's what's going to pay off at the end of the day. Doing Metcon every day, doing 100 wall ball every day, or doing like hundreds of toes to bar every day is not going to make you better at CrossFit.
Whereas you should be doing 200 toes to bar
That's
a day.
right.
That's where you get breakthrough to that next level.
The
of
real
fitness.
trouble, I guess, comes down to, though, the fact that maybe that statement isn't 100% correct. You could just do 100 wall ball a day or 100 toes to bar a day, or just follow like some random programming and get better.
The other thing is, and the one little thing I'm thinking of is there are people who don't have 6 years of like wall balls and toes to bar and a bunch of shit behind them, to where these movements are all still new and fun and exciting. And I'm not might not be picturing the same people you're picturing, but I'm thinking that too. Because when I think about all of those things and all trying to get good at those sorts of things, I realized that there was a time when wall balls and toes to bars
Were
and
exciting and fun.
exciting and fun and new.
It's true.
So maybe those people who are going in and hitting those crazy workouts every day and doing 100 wall balls a day, maybe they're still having a good time.
Well, here's something
That's
that
totally fine.
probably a good route in for CrossFit to someone who's brand new to it and you're working out on your own. Be sort of the way me and Kyle got into it. CrossFit.com for a year till you've tried all the things. And then you are tired of being sore all the time, and then start thinking about it.
Yeah. It's funny, Cliff and I just yesterday went to go meet my father was in town, so we met him for dinner at probably the best new restaurant in Austin, El Dorado Cafe. Short rib enchiladas, that's all I'm going
Holy
to say.
shit.
Yeah, they're dope. They were the best enchiladas I've ever had in my life.
Good God, man.
Go there, check it out. Mashed potato enchiladas, also there. Anyway. Yeah, I'm just saying.
For Katie.
For Katie, exactly. And happened to be next door to Cliff and I's old gym, the gym where we started doing CrossFit, which is now not a gym, but in fact a large vacant space. And we poked our heads in. And,
Like many gyms that were around back
yes.
then, by the way.
And not a CrossFit gym, it was just a Globo gym, but poked our heads in, peering through like what the covers that they had over all the windows, and saw this just giant empty, cavernous cement space that was once a gym, where young Kyle and some bumper plates and a barbell tried to teach himself how to clean and to squat and to do all of the things for multiple years. And it was an interesting nostalgia trip, because I looked at the space and I was just like, it's like that's where that barbell came crashing down on the back of my neck and drove my face into the ground. And
You look into that space and you're like, this is where I years and years ago took my first steps to exploding my knee.
Exactly. That was the space. That was the space in which I got my first muscle up on the rings, and where I set my all-time continuous muscle up PR, 3 in a row.
Oh, I thought you were going to say 2.
No, 3 whole muscle ups in a row.
That's incredible.
That's right.
Yeah,
Fitness.
did part of you look at that space and think, I should affiliate and open a gym here?
Oh man, yes.
Nice. So you really are a CrossFitter
Yes,
at
that's
heart.
right.
All right, so that's my rant about CrossFitters. Do it smart is what I'm
Yes.
basically
Remember,
trying to say.
guys, tired is enough.
And
And if you
it
can't do it
is.
smart, just have someone else do all of it for you and tell you exactly what to do.
There you go.
You don't
That's
even
what
have to
I
have
do.
some. Just find some website and do the stuff on it.
Sure.
Anything.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Or don't. You know what? Instead of, you can work on strength, you can work on engine, or just journal. Just write. Just put your thoughts down on paper until you realize, with a lot of introspection, that maybe there's something else missing in your life that you're
What
trying
went
to
wrong
fill
in your
with
childhood.
this. Exactly.
Yeah.
Realize
Also-
what is that hole you're trying to fill with all of this fitness, and then maybe go talk to your father. Talk to your mother.
In Kyle's experience, it's a knee-shaped hole.
Yes, that's right.
I mean,
yes.
Fortnite's also on iOS now, so you
That's
don't
right. So
technically have to do
what's
So is
Fortnite?
PlayerUnknown Battleground.
What's
It's like a battle royale game.
Oh, I thought this had to do with fitness.
Nope.
No.
It's
Oh,
definitely
okay.
a video
But
game.
this is a good way to fill your time. That's not fitnessing.
Yeah, it's a
You'll
good
have
way
better
to-
knees, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I suggest. I mean, Fortnite's pretty popular. I've never played it. Haven't played Battlegrounds either. But I do suggest Hearthstone. Hearthstone's one of my favorites. I play a lot of that.
Sounds pretty dope.
So, nix the fitness talk. We're gonna move on real quick to a couple very important pieces of media information.
Pornhub.
Other than
Is-
that,
Go ahead.
first I saw Ready Player One. Actually,
I
Chase
also
and I
saw Ready Player One.
Ready Player One.
Shit.
Yes.
Am I the only one that hasn't seen it?
Daniel,
I've
did you-
also seen Ready Player One.
Oh
I'm the
yeah,
only one that
fuck
hadn't
you,
seen it.
Cliff.
Yeah.
It's okay. It was fine.
I actually really liked it. I thought it was pretty good.
I mean,
yeah.
it was.
All right,
it was
sick.
to me. To
I
me,
knew
it
it wasn't crazy.
I was whatever about it.
Here's my quick take on Ready Player One. It is a feat that film has such an aggressively eye roll worthy premise, not just overall, but from moment to moment to moment. Because we've lived so much through just the super saturation of like geek culture, nerddom, blah 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 blah, and yet, scene by scene, moment by moment, the film works so damn well and is so charming and compelling throughout that it's a goddamn feat that I don't notice how fucking silly and trite all of these the concrete pieces of pop culture being referenced and all that stuff is. I don't notice it. I don't notice it at all. There was a moment when I remember watching the first trailer and seeing like he's driving a DeLorean that has a fucking Ghostbuster symbol on it through a race that's full of like the Akira bike, and I'm just like, fuck this movie. Why is Spielberg doing this? And then he's just such a good filmmaker. There was a moment in the middle of that race when I found myself just wrapped in what was going on in that race, leaning in, watching everything, understanding what was going on. And I just took a moment where I had to step outside myself and realize like, there are some brilliant choices being made, and I actually care, and I'm actually excited about what's going on in this. And I'm like, God damn you, Spielberg. You're so goddamn talented. You make me care. Like, for instance, take that goddamn race at the beginning.
Tell me.
It could be a sensory overload of all sorts. It very nearly is, and yet it's incredibly visually coherent. And interesting thing to notice, there's no music that plays for 1 second in that entire race in the beginning. There's no crazy. It's kind of a trivial, silly, fun race at the beginning, so they could have something light and underneath to kind of drive it forward. They could try and make it suspenseful. There's a conscious decision made. That thing is entirely told through just visuals and through really incredible sound design that keeps it coherent and keeps you invested in the reality of what's going on, because they're trying to make this silly, absurd thing feel tangible. And so they're using real sound effects, and there's no music, no anything, and it really does invest you and make it feel very, very grounded and tangible. This completely silly cartoon race that's going on, it feels very, very, very real somehow. And it's just, anyway, I want to see it again just to see how he's pulling off this amazing thing where again, the movie as a whole is pretty damn good, and the premise is just so goddamn stupid, and yet I just found myself utterly delighted by it the whole time.
I mean, listen, in the library of young adult dystopian future films, it's probably one of the better ones. I mean, it's the only one that Spielberg has done, so it has that going for it. To me, I didn't particularly find the movie very charming. Like I thought it was fine. There were two scenes, one being that race scene, and the second being I don't know if it's a spoiler or not, the Shining portion of it. That entire Shining sequence to me was the fucking best part of the movie.
It was definitely the highlight of the movie.
Incredible.
Like, it was pretty crazy.
The way it was done, the way it looked, the way they put it all together was so good. And that to me was like, this is, I don't know if that alone is worth the price of admission, but it's pretty fucking close. And other than that, it really did feel like it was, I mean, okay, this is going to sound really fucking pretentious, but it was like derivative in all versions of it, like from the way that the movie was built, like the structure of the plot to the entire third act is like basically taking from Inception and any other movie where there's like a big battle or anything. Like it was literally just Inception plus big battle. Like that was the movie at the very end. So like it just there's like references other than the cool factor of being like, did you see Battletoads? Or like, oh, Gundam.
Well,
okay,
but that's one of the things too that like is super bugged me as well. It's like, if you're gonna have the references or whatever. I don't need the thing every 5 seconds of, is that an Iron Giant? Why, yes, that is an Iron Giant.
Sure.
Hey, some of you may not know what the Iron Giant is.
But
So
that
Iron
being
Giant
said,
is a movie that was created in...
But I disagree with that in that I feel the one thing the film didn't really do was over-explain its references. And maybe this is also taken from, because the one, I've not read the book, but I heard that the book is just this catalog of.
It's terrible.
But what's hilarious about what works, I should say, about like the references as they come up in the movie is that they just sort of come and pass by in the background. Like I was expecting a film. Let's by comparison compare it to a shitty movie like Force Awakens or Return of the Jedi, or sorry, The Last Jedi.
I was about to say,
but but where we have, or actually, well, I guess I'm thinking of Rogue One is actually what I'm thinking of, where we have lots of goofy cameos that walk onto screen and like acknowledge their existence and walk off. I cannot really recall any moments in Ready Player One where there's just goofy cameos of like, did you see when Mario walked in and he's like, oh my, blah, blah, and he walks off.
That's a great point because the movie doesn't feel like it's aware of its own self-referential existence.
Like there's never a moment where like someone falls through a manhole and then there's just the Ninja Turtles are there and they're like, where are the Ninja Turtles? And they crawl back up.
Which it easily could have been.
It could have been an entire movie full, like films like Wreck-It Ralph and stuff like that, which is supposed to be this, but essentially for video. This is also for video games. But the thing is, like that thing that Daniel was referencing of like, no, is that an Iron Giant? Like it didn't have that.
That's really like the only time it happens.
Yeah, it's basically the one time in the movie where they had to call it out. And from what I understand, the reason that the Iron Giant was there was apparently because it was supposed to, in the book, it was actually like Ultraman or something, but they couldn't get the rights or some Japanese thing. I have no fucking idea. Anyway, they couldn't get the rights, so they swapped it in for Iron Giant. But yeah, it was a film that could have been nothing but like character walks down the street, they walk out of the way, and then all of a sudden you see fucking whatever, some character pop in. But everything was pushed to the background. So when you see Spawn or Battletoads or anything, it was always just passing by incidentally, and there were never any, again, like person falls through a manhole and all of a sudden it's the Ninja Turtles, or a person is lands on top of a building and there's Batman and he just looks at him and he's like brr, later, and then they jump out. Like it was a film without any of those ever happening at any point, which is kind of shocking when you think about it, and really only in the world where you have someone like Spielberg making the film who can make it in whatever way he wants and basically doesn't have to bend to anyone's notes. I don't think could you see a film that wasn't a Wreck-It Ralph series of walk-on cameo jokes, So.
Yeah, that actually, looking at it from the perspective of here's the series of decisions that led to what we saw on screen, I have a lot of respect for that. And the movie itself is, it's like, in terms of like a technological thing, is really, really well done. It almost, like the movie takes place, I don't know, like 75% of the movie takes place in the Oasis. And some scenes are a mix of what's happening in the real world and the Oasis. So you're almost, he like leans into that. Here's what this world looks like. Here's what this world looks like. And it didn't ever fall into the uncanny valley. Like when I first saw the trailers for it, I was like, this is going to be very strange to watch. Like I don't know if this is going to be easy to watch, but like Battle Angel. The trailer for Battle Angel, I was like, I don't know if I can watch this. Like that's really weird. The eye thing is really weird. But maybe between the trailer and the film release, they polished a lot of that up. But it actually was really engrossing. The world that they built in the Oasis was really engrossing. I just felt like overall, like it wasn't like watching. The references were a little exciting to be like, oh, I caught that, but also not really the most exciting references for me. Like I wasn't like, oh my god, fucking King Kong is here. Like I was like, oh, it's King Kong. That's pretty cool. Right? So, and because of how predictable the entire storyline plays out to be, the one thing that surprised me was the Shining scene. Where I just felt like that was so unique. Like I hadn't seen anything like that ever before. Where basically these characters are reliving a moment in this movie, and you know what's going to happen. No one else, the character doesn't know what's going to happen.
And that's the thing is that there's so many. It's been interesting to follow the discourse around this movie the last couple of weeks because it premiered at South by Southwest, and I think that there's an entire army of like film bloggers and critics who were just primed to hate this movie. Like they hated it's like the book, which they liked 10 years ago or 20 years ago, now they hate because it's like not in vogue anymore. I'm not saying it was a good book, but it is whatever. Then Spielberg's directing it. Okay, the first trailers did not look great. It appears to be a film that's being marketed on mashups and nostalgia during a period when mashups and nostalgia are getting the very same mashups and nostalgia that these same acclaimed film critics and bloggers were so embracing 15, 20 years ago are now they're, of course,
Not that long ago.
Yeah,
it's
not
like,
that
it's
long
like
ago.
3
It's
years
like 3
ago.
years ago. Now they're turned against. So when the first, I remember seeing all these negative reviews coming out of South by Southwest and being like, oh, that sucks. I wish the movie was good. And then more positive stuff. And then I see the movie and none of the criticisms that were in the reviews are actually present in the movie. And and then more and more positive buzz building, and you realize that what happened is Spielberg ended up making a really good movie that people were so primed to dislike that they were preemptively disliked it upon its release.
Is this the diametric opposite in that respect of The Last Jedi
Exactly.
or something?
It's like
okay,
reverse Last Jedi.
Whereas I would actually, I would say Ready Player One is a significantly better movie than The Last Jedi.
Most definitely. That's the point I'm making.
Every
it's
facet.
amazing how wrong you
it's
continue
better
to be on that
written.
movie.
It's better directed. The storyline is better. The characters are
Here's the
fucking
thing,
better.
Here's what I can say honestly, if we were to compare those two films, is like, is that Ready Player One is heartfelt, propulsive, brilliantly told story, and being brilliantly told cinematically, that tells its story on its own terms. The Last Jedi is never telling a story on its own terms for one goddamn second. It's always apologizing, rewriting, and telling stories in reference to things that exist outside of that film. In fact, that's the funny part, is that, if anything, Last Jedi is the film that more suffers from references to culture outside of it than the movie that is being criticized for being nothing but a mashup of two references of pop culture from the outside. So the mashup movie that has like Spawn and Battletoads is actually a more it's a more self-contained narrative that actually tells a story in its own terms than the movie than The Last Jedi. So that's a very interesting way to look at them, as kind of a yin and yang, because in a weird way, like as derivative as you might call it, at least the story of what's his face in Ready Player One is its own story that is always working in service of that story for every single minute that it's going, that every single minute of the runtime of that movie. Whereas in Last Jedi, it's like, don't you remember in the last movie when the girl who beat you with the lightsaber was that thing and no one liked it? So, but remember how you were super emotionally compromised and that's why that thing happened? So retcon, it totally actually does make sense. I'm like, I guess, are we watching a movie right now? What's happening? Or is this a movie?
Yeah, I can't think of a better comparison between those two movies than comparing the character of H to the character of Rose. H being
H?
like the big,
Right.
the one that got scared in The Shining.
Yeah, that's right.
Versus Rose being like
Yeah.
whatever she
she
was
is, yeah.
in Last Jedi. It's like these are two supporting characters. They both have like very small roles in their own story arcs in the film, and yet one, it becomes like this fully fleshed out character in the course of 7 minutes of fucking screen time alone. You know what I mean? You have an entire half of a goddamn movie with Rose, and you're like, why do you exist? Why are you who you are?
Well, that's a weird thing. The one, and if anything, I can criticize Ready Player One for, and it's like there just seems to be some really interesting missed opportunities in the movie, just in that, like, pretty clearly on spoilers for the next 30 seconds, I guess. But it's like, it's very clear that the giant hulking guy is clearly like a woman because you can hear that her voice is a woman's voice that's being distorted down. And then there's even an entire scene in Ready Player One where, like, clearly the giant hulking dude, who is clearly a woman in disguise, who's the best friend of our protagonist, is jealous of all of the attention that he's giving to this new girl that he's in love with. So it seemed like, oh, this is a great setup for inevitably, like, him to realize that the best friend is actually a girl, and that she's in love with him, and that she's been with him the whole time, blah 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 blah. Then the character shows up, and the character is, while it's never explicitly stated, is clearly coded as like a lesbian. She's like a woman who's in disguise, and they're like saying, okay, surprise, I am a woman. Isn't this shocking that my best friend is actually a woman? But they've gone out of their way to code the best friend as gay. She's dressed as a man. She's, has like a backwards hat, and she's doing all that sort of thing. So it's which seems to be there specifically to eliminate her as a possibility of sexual interest, as a competing sexual interest to the main character. I'm like, don't lean away from that complexity. Lean into it. What a better ending of the movie would have been if there was actually, like, he realized, like, the Akira driving bike girl, who was his main love interest the whole time, had turned out to be a dude or had betrayed him or something, and he realized that his best buddy the whole time was a lady, and that they ended up falling in love. That would be a much more interesting way for that to have played out, and that's the kind of the direction I assumed it was going in, and it's just disappointing when you can see a more interesting version of a conclusion for a movie, and then it goes to something more conventional.
Yeah.
But and there's various things like that. But then again, I have to say, overall, despite those criticisms, I found myself just utterly smitten with that movie the whole time it was playing. So.
There were some really funny parts. T.J. Miller is funny.
Yeah.
He plays like the henchman.
He plays the T.J. Miller character.
He plays the T.J. Miller character. He plays like the big bad henchman.
Yes.
And he's pretty funny.
Yeah.
The whole like continuing to reference like the neck
pain,
thing is really funny. Mendelsohn I think it's his birthday today, or his birthday yesterday.
Okay, interesting. Also
is
from the Star War.
Also from "We stand in the midst of my achievement." It's so fucking good. He's always good. He's never not good.
Yes,
with his little lisp and
he was he was in Rogue One, a film with more like little standalone goofy cameo jokes than this movie that has goddamn Battletoads in it. Battletoads and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. So overall, I would say this movie was fine. I'd
say it's good.
Someone asked me whether they should go see it, and I was like, I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know.
I feel like here's the thing. I think it's a good movie that people feel like they need to over-justify why it's good because the premise itself is so goddamn cringeworthy. You have to this would have to be much more compelling in order for people to feel safe calling it a good movie. And because they don't feel safe calling it a good movie, they kind of come out somewhere lukewarm on it. It's a good movie. It's a lot of fun. Go see it.
I have a hard time justifying what I'm hearing from you right now based off of every other fucking movie review.
Well, every other fucking movie review is every other movie that we've talked about on here, and admittedly, we always lean into the movies we don't really like on here, are because other movies are just bad. They're just bad.
Daniel, please.
No, I can back you up a little bit here, but yeah. Also, it is a weird thing. I saw the movie. I came out of it going like this. It left me cold. I didn't feel good. I've sat on it for the past I guess a couple days or whatever. But like, maybe I should revisit this movie. Like, because the Shining bit, as Kyle was saying, the race sequence also very good. There's a lot of very good things in it. I still am very hesitant to call it a good movie. Like there are good pieces.
Sure.
Yeah,
fair enough.
Yeah, and honestly, and even all the stuff referencing with Simon Pegg and the whole history of behind the guy, liked all of it. It actually drew me in. Actually dug it. So it is what it is.
Whatever.
Thumbs up.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Thumbs up. Secondarily, yeah. Chase, did you like it? Yeah, I loved it. Well, there you go.
That's all. That's all
that
need to know.
Well, there we go.
And he is going to regionals.
And he's going to regionals, so you should be listening to his opinion on the movies.
Obviously.
It's April right now. Main thing there that's important is it's my birthday next weekend.
Oh, that's news.
Wow.
The second important thing is that, you guys, this promo that we've been running for Scale is Needed live every Wednesday, 10% fitness, 90% Game of Thrones. It will be accurate once again.
Oh my God! When does Game of
Wait, not Game of Thrones. Sorry, Westworld.
Westworld.
Westworld. Oh, right.
It says Game of Thrones.
It says Game of Thrones, but what I mean is we're basically going to go back to serialized
Oh my
format.
God! We have to start watching.
We have to
Westworld
start
again.
watching Westworld.
That is a thing we have to start watching again.
I've been reading those articles.
Poor James Marsden.
I've been seeing little things posted about how, watch the new Westworld trailer. The Westworld trailer is so good. I'm like, I don't want to watch the fucking Westworld trailer.
The trailer's pretty good.
Well, here's the silver lining. There is I would literally just today on my little notepad was like, I'm not currently subscribed to HBO Go. I probably should be though, because there's some shows I wanted to catch up on. I wrote down 4 shows I wanted to binge on there. So eventually, when I have a reason,
when he was
subscribe,
journaling about it.
Yes,
instead of training.
I was journaling about that just this morning, no joke. So guess what? I'll use this as an opportunity to finally binge Vice Principals and the rest of Eastbound and Down and the new Bill Hader show.
By the way, yes, and that's worth bringing up. We are 2 episodes now into what might be my favorite show on television. Barry is fucking great. Watch Barry with Bill Hader on HBO. It is whatever you think it is. It isn't. Just start watching it. And now it and Silicon Valley are playing concurrently. Same creator, Alec Berg, on both of those shows. I love Silicon Valley. It's great. and watching that and Barry back to back Sunday night is must-see TV, you guys. But anyway, Barry, you guys watch the episodes before next week. We should catch up on Barry and talk about it on next week's pod. Let's do it. Watch Barry, you guys.
I will give it a college shot. I'm traveling this weekend, but I'll give it a shot.
Yep. Yes. When you're alone in your hotel room, if your wiener can't take any more abuse,
when you're alone in your
just
hotel
watch
room,
Barry instead.
Log
Give
on
it
to
a break.
Pornhub and watch Barry.
Watch Barry on Pornhub. Yeah. So Westworld is coming back. Chase hates Westworld. It's fine.
You should,
honestly,
because the first season sucked ass.
I've been telling Chase, I was like, Chase, all you have to do is watch the first 2 episodes and the last 2 episodes, and that's
Do you stand by that, Kyle?
I would say, well, here's the thing, is that we've spent hours discussing this already. The first 2 episodes are really good, and then clearly the show that we were watching up to that point just ends, and instead we just get 10 episodes of wheel spinning while they try and figure out how to retool what was supposed to be a mini-series into the first season of an ongoing series. So the one thing, at least, that at season 2... had, like, with whole characters just sitting in rooms and waiting for the basically wait for the season to end. Andy Newton. Like, at least this new season will actually hopefully be a coherent story that was written in advance, filmed, and then shot.
All right,
this new season won't hinge on, well, we need to do a bunch of reshoots with Anthony Hopkins, but we can't afford Anthony Hopkins, so
yeah.
So I can just watch the first 2 episodes.
And the last
two episodes.
I still have to watch that. God
yeah.
damn it.
Well, I don't know.
Remember
You'll
when
be fine.
we all knew what the twist was for like 8 episodes in advance and just had to sit there waiting for it to fucking be revealed the whole time? Jesus Christ.
Yeah. It's like watching a water balloon splash on, like, explode on someone's face in 120,000 frames a second.
No, that would be more entertaining.
Get to it.
But that's the thing, is that it's like you begin to think, well, what if the show is actually 2 steps ahead of me? And like we think that this twist is so obvious. What if they're teeing it up as being so obvious because it's actually a reverse twist, a double back, double agent, triple negative? No, it just was that, and that was so disappointing.
Guys, it actually like seriously, this is an ingenious thing that HBO has done. I didn't even realize it until now. That entire season of Westworld was to prepare us for the previous season of Game of Thrones, to let us know how we would feel that entire time.
Yeah.
Well, the way I felt about Game of Thrones, this last season of Game of Thrones, was very different than the way I felt about Westworld. I felt like Game of Thrones like rushed by me in such like this weird like sort of like hyper focused on like let's fucking blow shit up. And
Werner Herzog's remake of Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call, New Orleans, has and I can spoil this because if you haven't seen it, you never will. It has this great, and where basically they've backed the character of the Bad Lieutenant,
played by Nicolas
Cage, into a corner where like he owes money to the mob and like the cases haven't been solved and all this other stuff, and there's. In what is maybe not a great movie overall, but it's this great 1-2 punch of an ending where there's a sequence where basically it's almost like Lynchian in that like characters just start wandering into the police station and solving all of his problems for him. So he owes money, like he's made, like he took the last bit of his money and like bet it on a long shot and everything, and like someone like Brad Dourif or someone comes in, he's like, that long shot horse you bet on won, and he's like, oh, look at all this money, I'll use this to pay off my debts. And then this other issue is resolved, and all these people come in and start resolving all of his plot issues, and he's just sitting there laughing because all of the problems that were going to lead to his death just sort of evaporate. And then the 1-2 punch basically is that you see in the next scene he just starts fucking up his life all over again. So you could like, that's the whole thing. But that is what that scene where just random characters start walking in and solving all the problems, and it has no correspondence to reality, and it seems like it's almost like this weird Lynchian dream that you are going to wake up from at any moment, is what the entirety of the last season of Game of Thrones felt like.
It's a great way of describing it.
And because it's literally like after all this setup and all of this tension and all of these irreconcilable differences, it's like characters are just wandering into the screen and just saying like, And like, oh no,
Garmin Boza, and then a giant dragon.
a fucking dragon shows up, and it's just like, hey guys, you know what would solve all these problems if we got that hot blonde lady and the king from the north? You know, the two good people, we got them together and joined their forces, and they liked each other immediately, and then all of a sudden it was all solved. And it's like, oh god, I don't know why I didn't see this before. And that's what the entirety of the last season of Game of Thrones felt like. You know, it's like an entire fucking series of novels and shows that was built on constantly subverting your and frustrating your expectations to find something that was deeper and richer.
Not anymore.
Just eventually just threw that right out the fucking window and immediately said, like, what we're going to do is whatever your mom thinks is going to happen, that's what we're going to make the show.
So maybe like the real way to subvert your expectations was to like give in to all of your expectations, guys. They really got us there.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, and Westworld crumbles under Jonathan Nolan's need to make everything multiple timelines. I don't know. Either way,
the one thing we know is it will have to be better than Dunkirk.
Yes.
So.
which I watched.
Oh, did you?
I watched it on an airplane.
Man.
Did I mention this?
No.
I watched it on a flight. I think on my way back from London.
And what was your reaction?
It was okay.
It's a great. I'm sure it would be a great movie to watch while slightly distracted.
Wait, Armen, does this take you back?
The music was more of just like a screeching noise and tick-tock, like a clock going off. But it really, you're right. The Dunkirk was, oh man, it was. Ready Player One is better than Dunkirk.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
I haven't seen Ready Player One. I can tell you that.
All right. On that note, I think we're done here. Go ahead.
I'm at Mr. Kyle Bogart on a Instagram account that it will soon to be featuring a picture of Margaret Thatcher as a centaur, courtesy of. So if you want to see that centaur Margaret Thatcher picture that is still making me laugh, go to at Mr. Kyle Bogart on Instagram.
I'm at Cliff Bogart, an Instagram channel that features an awesome horseshoe tricep there, courtesy of me.
Yeah.
I am at a Supersonic Man on Twitter, Instagram, etc.
And I'm Chase504 on all of the things.
And soon to be at the regionals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can find Chase 504 at regionals
In
as well.
Salt Lake City, Utah.
And I am at Armen Hoists. Thank you so much, folks, for listening and watching along, and we will catch you next week. Later.
Latest.